1 in every 2 adults walking the planet right now is bloated. Right now, not occasionally, not after a big meal. Chronically, daily, relentlessly bloated. And they have been told repeatedly by their doctors, by their nutritionists, by their well-meaning friends that the solution is to eat less beans, drink more water, maybe try some activated charcoal gummies from a pastel-colored Instagram ad. And here is what nobody is telling you. The food is not the cause. I want you to stop and sit with that for a moment because I know how radical it sounds. You've been eliminating broccoli, you've been cutting out onions, you've been afraid of lentils, you've been living on plain rice and boiled chicken like a hospital patient, and you are still bloated, still gassy, still waking up with a flat stomach, and going to bed looking 4 months pregnant. Am I right? That is not a coincidence. That is a symptom of a deeper systemic failure. Not in your diet, but in the very architecture of your digestive nervous system, your gut microbiome ecology, and the integrity of something called your ileocecal valve. And I can almost guarantee your doctor has never once mentioned that valve to you. This is not a food problem. This is a nervous system and microbial terrain problem. And today, we are going to go all the way down the rabbit hole together. Because bloating and chronic gas are not embarrassing lifestyle inconveniences. They are your body screaming, in the only language it has, that something upstream, far upstream, has broken down. Ignored long enough, this becomes intestinal permeability, systemic inflammation, autoimmune triggers, and yes, eventually, diseases that do have billing codes. Stay with me. This video could genuinely change the way your gut functions for the rest of your life. Let me tell you something about how modern gastroenterology works in practice. You walk in. You are bloated, gassy, in discomfort. The doctor has, on average, 7 minutes with you. They will likely hand you one of 3 things. A prescription for a proton pump inhibitor, which reduces stomach acid and actually worsens long-term digestion. A referral for a colonoscopy to rule out the big stuff. Or a pamphlet that says, try a low-FODMAP diet. None of those 3 things address the root mechanism. None of them. And I want to be clear, I am not saying your physician is a bad person. Most of them are deeply caring, overworked human beings trapped inside a system that is structurally designed to treat symptoms, not causes. Because symptoms generate return visits. Symptoms generate prescriptions. Symptoms generate procedures. Root cause resolution? That generates a patient who never needs to come back. There is no billing code for a healed gut. Nobody in a white coat is going to tell you this. Not because they are hiding it, but because their entire education, their residency, their continuing medical credits are funded, in enormous part, by pharmaceutical interests that profit from the management of chronic digestive dysfunction, not the elimination of it. The gut is the most profitable organ in the human body to keep sick. So let's talk about what's actually happening inside you. And I promise you, the biology is fascinating. Before we go deep into the physiology, and we are going deep today, all the way to your enteric nervous system, I want to ask you something. If this channel has ever given you something your doctor didn't, consider subscribing right now. We are pushing toward 100,000 subscribers, and every single one of you matters. Every subscription tells the algorithm that real, evidence-based, patient-first content deserves to be seen. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. It costs you nothing, and it means everything for this community we are building together. All right, let's get into the real science. To understand why you are bloated, you need to understand that your gut is not simply a tube that food passes through. It is, and I mean this literally, a second brain. The enteric nervous system, which lines your entire gastrointestinal tract from esophagus to rectum, contains approximately 500 million neurons. That is more neurons than your spinal cord. It communicates bidirectionally with your brain via the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in the body, and it is profoundly sensitive to stress, sleep deprivation, circadian rhythm disruption, and the composition of your microbiome. Here is where most people's understanding of bloating completely falls apart. Bloating is not produced by the food you eat. It is produced by the organisms fermenting that food, and by the motility failure that lets fermentation happen in the wrong place at the wrong time. Let me explain what I mean. Your small intestine, which is approximately 6 to 7 meters long, is supposed to be a relatively low bacteria environment. Under healthy conditions, a process called the migrating motor complex, or MMC, sweeps bacteria and undigested particles from your small intestine into your large intestine roughly every 90 minutes during fasting states. Think of it as a self-cleaning wave of muscular contraction. It is the janitor of your gut. This MMC is regulated by a hormone called motilin, and motilin release is directly suppressed by two things: chronic stress via cortisol elevation and constant eating, specifically snacking between meals. When your MMC is impaired, bacteria accumulate in the small intestine where they don't belong. When carbohydrates then arrive, any carbohydrates, even the clean ones, these misplaced bacteria ferment them immediately, producing hydrogen, methane, and hydrogen sulfide gas. This condition is called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, and conservative estimates suggest it affects between 30 and 78% of people with chronic bloating. Yet the majority are never tested for it. Now here's where it gets even more precise. Your gut lining, what we call the intestinal epithelium, is a single cell layer thick. Protecting it is a mucosal layer largely produced by a bacterium called Akkermansia mucinifila. When this organism is depleted through antibiotic use, chronic stress, ultra-processed food consumption, or the use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen, the tight junctions between those epithelial cells begin to loosen. These tight junctions are regulated by a protein called zonulin, discovered by gastroenterologist Dr. Alessio Fasano. When zonulin is overproduced, those junctions open. Partially digested food particles, bacterial endotoxins like lipopolysaccharide, LPS, and microbial byproducts enter the bloodstream. The immune system mounts a response. Mast cells in the gut wall degranulate, releasing histamine. The gut wall swells. Motility slows further. Gas accumulates with nowhere efficient to go. This is not a theory. This is a documented physiological reality published in peer-reviewed gastroenterology journals for over 2 decades. And there is one more anatomical piece that almost no one discusses: the ileocecal valve. This small but critical valve sits between your small intestine and your large intestine, specifically at the junction of the ileum and cecum in your lower right abdomen. Its job is one-way traffic: allow digested material to pass into the colon, but prevent the bacteria-rich contents of the colon from refluxing back into the small intestine. In many chronically bloated patients, this valve is either chronically open, allowing colonic bacteria to migrate upward, or chronically spasmed shut, creating a backlog of gas and pressure that distends the entire small intestine. You are not bloated because of the broccoli. You are bloated because your broccoli is being fermented by bacteria living in the wrong neighborhood, in a gut whose motility has stalled and whose immune defenses have been stripped away. The food is the match. The broken physiology is the gasoline. And we have been blaming the match. Let me address the biggest myth in digestive health right now, and I hear it constantly from patients who have been to multiple specialists. I have IBS, and IBS means my gut is just sensitive. I need to manage it with diet forever. This is clinically incorrect, and accepting it as your final diagnosis is one of the most harmful things you can do for your long-term health. Irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, is what we call a diagnosis of exclusion. It means we ran the tests we typically run, we didn't find cancer or Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, so we are going to give your symptoms a name and send you home. IBS is not a mechanism. It is an umbrella term that describes a symptom pattern without identifying a cause. Research published in the American Journal of Gastroenterology has shown that up to 84% of people diagnosed with IBS actually have SIBO as an underlying driver. A separate body of research has identified bile acid malabsorption impaired MMC function, low-grade mucosal inflammation, and dysregulated serotonin signaling in the gut as distinct and treatable mechanisms that all present as IBS. When you accept IBS, manage with diet as your endpoint, you stop looking for the actual mechanism, and the actual mechanism continues to worsen. This is not a sensitivity problem. This is a terrain problem. Your gut's ecosystem has been disrupted, and no amount of avoiding garlic will rebuild it. Here is what I have refined over 15 years of working with patients whose bloating was written off by conventional medicine. This is not a supplement protocol. This does not require a prescription. Every single item I'm about to mention is available in your kitchen or your local market for under $5. Step 1. Rebuild the MMC with strategic fasting windows. Stop eating between meals. I know this sounds simple. It is not. Your MMC, that intestinal sweeping wave, only activates during a fasted state. Every snack you eat resets the clock back to zero. The MMC requires a minimum of 90 uninterrupted fasting minutes to complete one full sweep cycle. Eat 3 meals per day. Space them at least 4 to 5 hours apart. No snacking, just a handful of nuts. Nothing but water and plain black coffee or tea between meals. Do this for 21 days and document your symptoms. Most patients see a measurable change in bloating severity within the first week. Step 2. The ginger and bitter protocol, 30 minutes before each meal. Combine the following in 200 ml of warm water. 1 teaspoon of freshly grated raw ginger, not powdered. The active compound, 6-gingerol, is significantly more bioavailable in fresh form. Juice of half a fresh lemon, approximately 15-20 ml. 1 small pinch of Himalayan or sea salt, approximately 0.1 hg. 5 drops of pure food-grade Swedish bitters, or 1 to 2 teaspoons of raw apple cider vinegar with the mother. Drink this mixture exactly 30 minutes before your first bite of food. This combination does 3 things simultaneously. It stimulates vagal tone via bitter receptors on the tongue, it primes hydrochloric acid secretion in the stomach, and it triggers cholecystokinin release from the duodenum, the hormone that signals your gallbladder and pancreas to prepare digestive enzymes. You are essentially jump-starting the entire digestive cascade before food even arrives. Step 3. The ileocecal valve massage, morning before rising. Before you get out of bed each morning, lie flat on your back. Find your lower right abdomen, specifically the point 2 fingers below your navel and 2 fingers to the right. This is the approximate anatomical location of your ileocecal valve. Using firm circular pressure, massage this point clockwise for 60 seconds, then counterclockwise for 60 seconds. Apply enough pressure to feel mild discomfort but not pain. Then take 3 slow diaphragmatic breaths. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 8 seconds. This activates the vagus nerve, reduces local muscle guarding around the valve, and encourages proper valve tone. Many patients report immediate relief from the sense of right-sided fullness within 3 to 5 days. Step 4. Fermented food titration, not probiotic capsules. Most probiotic supplements are dead before they reach your colon. The capsule form, the storage conditions, the transit through your stomach acid, it is largely theater. What actually populates and maintains the mucosal ecosystem is living, unpasteurized fermented food. Start with just 1 tablespoon of plain, unpasteurized sauerkraut, not the vinegar-preserved kind, the lacto-fermented kind, with your second meal of the day. Not more. 1 tablespoon. If you are SIBO positive and you flood your gut with fermented food immediately, you will temporarily worsen your symptoms. Titrate upward by 1 tablespoon per week, watching for changes in gas and bloating. Step 5. The evening castor oil compress, 3 times per week. Saturate a piece of unbleached wool flannel cloth with cold-pressed castor oil, approximately 3 to 4 tablespoons, and place it over your entire abdomen. Cover with a thin towel to protect clothing. Apply a warm water bottle or heating pad set to low on top. Leave in place for 45 minutes while lying down. Castor oil contains ricinoleic acid, which exerts a promotility effect on intestinal smooth muscle via prostaglandin EP3 receptor activation. Peer-reviewed data on this mechanism is limited, but the clinical results in my practice have been consistent. This protocol reduces mucosal inflammation, softens the mesenteric fascia surrounding the intestines, and empirically improves bowel transit times within 7 to 10 days. Step 6. Diaphragmatic retraining, twice daily, 5 minutes each. Chronic bloating changes your breathing. As the distended gut pushes upward against the diaphragm stops descending properly on inhalation. This creates a vicious loop. Impaired diaphragmatic descent reduces the mechanical pressure that helps move food and gas through your intestines. Twice daily, once in the morning, once before bed, lie flat with one hand on your chest and one on your abdomen. Breathe in slowly through the nose for 5 full seconds. The hand on your abdomen should rise. The hand on your chest should remain still. Exhale through pursed lips for 7 seconds. Repeat for 5 minutes. This is not just relaxation. This is direct mechanical rehabilitation of your gut's primary motility driver. I want to tell you about a patient I'll call Margaret. She came to me after 11 years of what 3 different gastroenterologists had independently diagnosed as IBS mixed type. She was 44 years old, a secondary school teacher, and she had stopped eating at work functions. She had stopped traveling. She had developed genuine anxiety around every single meal because she never knew which meal would be the one that left her looking and feeling 9 months pregnant by 3 p.m. She had eliminated gluten, then dairy, then legumes, then cruciferous vegetables. She was surviving on a diet so restricted her nutritionist was worried about her caloric intake. And she was still bloated, still gassy, still in pain, still exhausted. Because, as we now know, the food was never the primary problem. When Margaret came to me, her SIBO breath test came back strongly positive for hydrogen-dominant overgrowth. Her zonulin levels were elevated, indicating gut permeability. Her morning cortisol was blunted, classic of HPA axis dysregulation from years of chronic low-grade physiological stress. Her vagal tone, measured by heart rate variability, was in the bottom quartile for her age group. We did not put her on rifaximin immediately. We rebuilt her foundations first. We introduced the 3-meal window, the pre-meal ginger protocol, the morning ileocecal massage, the breathing work. After 6 weeks, her subjective bloating score dropped from an 8 out of 10 to a 3. After 12 weeks, she was eating lentils again. After 6 months, she sent me a photograph from a work Christmas party, plate full, laughing. She sent one line in the message. I forgot what normal felt like. Now I remember. That is why I do this work, and that is why this information needs to reach as many people as possible. Now I want to hear from you because this is not a one-way conversation. How old are you? Drop your age in the comments right now, because bloating at 28 has a different dominant mechanism than bloating at 52. A 28-year-old's gut dysbiosis often traces back to a single course of antibiotics in their teens. A 52-year-old's bloating is frequently tied to declining stomach acid production, shifting bile acid metabolism, and perimenopause-driven changes in gut motility that are almost never discussed. If I know who is watching, I can tailor future content to your exact physiological stage. So, your age in the comments. Right now, I read every single one. Let me bring this home. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember these 6 realities. 1. Your bloating is not caused by your food choices. It is caused by where food is being fermented, by which organisms, and by a motility system that has lost its rhythm. 2. The migrating motor complex, your gut's self-cleaning wave, requires uninterrupted fasting between meals to function. Snacking is one of the most destructive habits for your digestive health, and nobody is talking about it loudly enough. 3. The ileocecal valve is the forgotten gatekeeper of your digestive tract. A dysfunctional valve allows bacterial migration into the small intestine, and no low-FODMAP diet on Earth fixes a structural valve problem. 4. Your vagus nerve connects your brain to your gut in real time. Chronic stress doesn't just affect your mood, it paralyzes your intestinal motility at the neurological level. You cannot out-diet a dysregulated nervous system. 5. Gut permeability, leaky gut, is not a wellness industry buzzword. It is a documented, measurable physiological condition driven by zonulin dysregulation and loss of Akkermansia mucinifila, and it causes systemic inflammation that manifests far beyond your digestive tract. 6. The protocol works when it is followed consistently. Not for 3 days, not when you feel like it. 21 days, minimum of the 3-meal window, the ginger lemon bitter pre-meal drink, the morning massage, the diaphragmatic breathing, the castor oil compress, and the slow titration of fermented food. 21 days. That is 3 weeks to potentially end a decade of suffering. Here's the truth that the system doesn't want you to sit with too long. The system profits from your treatment. I profit from you not needing me anymore. That is the only business model I believe in. A patient who heals doesn't come back. A patient who merely manages their symptoms comes back every month, for every prescription renewal, for every follow-up scope, for every bottle of supplements that masks the symptom without touching the cause. You deserve better than symptom management. You deserve a gut that works, and now you have the science and the tools to start rebuilding it. Today, with ingredients already in your kitchen. Share this video with one person you know who is suffering in silence. You might change the entire trajectory of their health. I will see you in the next one.